So, hello everyone, and welcome to our presentation about VFX for games, using shaders and particles to create powerful magic. Today we're going to talk about the video game we're currently working on, Runwatch, Age of Arcanum, and we will walk you through some of the elements related to the development of this game, focusing especially on the visual effects. So, to start, we will introduce ourselves. We are the D4 Studios. I am Luiz Santos, and I am the 3D artist and the animator.
Hello, I'm Gonçalo Verde, and I'm the UI and UX designer as well as 3D modeler.
Next one. We don't hear.
My mic wasn't working. Okay.
Yes, now
okay.
we can hear.
Okay, I'm Pedro Bezerra. I'm also the 3D modeler as well as 2D artist and VFX artist.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Pedro Marques. I am the programmer.
Fantastic. So we now know your team.
So, what is Runwatch? Runwatch is a first-person shooter roguelike with a strong focus on the VFX and visual side of it to really put on put up the elemental side of the game, and all of the levels are procedurally generated.
So for our procedural generation, we had the idea of creating dungeons consisting of 7 to 10 compartments. These compartments are pre-made, so we have control of the blocking of the room and the enemy formations inside. To create a procedural generation, we created an algorithm that allowed us to control the size and structure of the dungeon. This algorithm is responsible for creating compartments and corridors and connect every piece through contact points. We chose to apply this method of creation in order to have replayability and create more with less effort. And this is the final result of a dungeon.
So in order to create the pre-made rooms that my colleague just talked about, we rely on modularity. So we create models in a way that allows us to easily put them together and quickly iterate over the rooms we are creating. So the workflow for our assets is pretty straightforward. We start by creating a low poly version of the model, and then we sculpt details onto them, and then we bring them to Substance Painter for baking and texturing, and after that we just bring them to Unity to implementation. And here we have some examples of our modular kits. And this is for also the part of the modular kit, but the part of the ceilings. And here we have our enemies. We have multiple enemies, and we animate them and rig them in Blender.
Okay. Now we'll talk a bit about the shader and particle systems because it's one of the most important parts of our project. So first of all, we'll go through the shaders that we used. Let me just open it here. Okay. So just a second, let me get the thing out of the way. Okay, so first of all, we needed to create a particle shader for our effects. Since we have many different elements, we wanted a shader to control that could work with all of them, so we didn't have to create new ones each time we needed a different effect. So this is what our shader looks like. It controls basically all of the effects. There are very few exceptions. We can go through the process of creating everything, but we can see what each part of it does in the particle itself. So first of all, we have the main texture, which is pretty self-explanatory. It controls what we see in the particles. So let me put, for example, a star here. The particle takes the shape of the star, a circle, for example, and we use many different shapes for each different system. Oh, and with all the textures, we can move them over time. As some methods will use this to create a nicer effect. Next, we have the color, which is pretty much set to white every particle because we can control via the particle system in Unity. For example, we can change this one to red, and it changes just this particle. And we can also create random colors that change over the lifetime of the particle. But this is here mainly because of the intensity of the color, as you can increase the intensity and make the particles glow. Next, we have the distort texture, which affects the main texture. It will distort it. For example, we have a noise stature here, and if we increase the extent, we can see that the particle is distorting itself. We can also use movement here to make it wobble a bit. This helps to create more organic shapes, like for example, water, nature, and fire. And put it back down to 0. Next, we have a dissolve texture, which is used for when the texture is fading away. It can give a bit more stylized look. If you change the dissolve amount here between 0 and 1, you can see the particle dissolve away according to the texture. We can also add a mask. For example, we have this gradient mask, so you can see the particle dissolves more from the top and then moves down. If we take out the texture, it will just dissolve from the whole particle at once. Next, we have a mask texture, which is also pretty self-explanatory. It just makes the shape transparent on some spots. For example, this here is a little noise, so we can add a bit of noise to our circle, or we can change the different particles, and we can create more interesting shapes with this. We can also invert the mask or use the alpha instead of black and white. For the last one, and one of the least used, we have a vertex offset, which controls the mesh in which the particle is put. For example, this one is a sphere, and we can see the vertex moving around. We can change the intensity as well, make it go outside, inside, or make it move. And this is useful for just some water effects, for example. So it doesn't look very much rigid. So now that we saw the shaders, we will see some of the effects you can make with them. First of all, we have a black hole effect. Let me just zoom in a bit. So we needed this effect for one of our spells, which was our darkness elements. It's called Umbra. And it was an area of effect spell that explodes after a delay. So for that, we separated it in two different layers, the anticipation and the explosion itself. The anticipation is composed by the orb in the center. It is just a sphere with black color, and it uses a Fresnel effect from the shader, which is this glow around the edges. You can see we put it purple, increase the intensity, and it looks like that. It is also animated over time with the particle system, just like our other particles. So it increases over time and then implodes. Behind that, we have this vortex, which is spin around, and then implode with the orb itself. And we have two layers of circle particles around it. If you see it up close, you can see that it wobbles a bit. We're using that distort effect that I talked about earlier. We have one layer for the bright ones and one for the dark. So now let's just stop this. And now for the explosion, we have a glow in the beginning. It has a small delay because of the delay of the black hole. So this first glow, it's just to give the impact of the explosion. After that, we have three similar layers of the particles we talked before. One for the bright ones, one for the black, and this time we have one for stretched particles. So you can see the velocity of the explosion. You can see these particles over here, for example, are stretched. We also have a center glow that fades over time, just to convey the energy dissipating slowly. And last of all, we have an area effect. It's a black sphere that grows over time and dissolves, using that dissolve from the shader. You can see it starts as a complete whole black sphere, and as it grows dissolving away. So it simulates like a stylized smoke effect. If you see it all together again, we have this effect. Now, for another effect we can show is the light disk. This one is a projectile instead of another area of effect, and is very simpler than the other one. It's composed mainly of 4 different layers. We have the discs itself, which are meshes that are spawned with slightly different sizes, as you can see here on the right, and different rotations, and they spin around. It moves together with the projectile, making the main body of the spell. Just like this one, we have a trail effect that pretty much the only difference is that it stays in the spot it was spawned. So it doesn't move around with the projectile. So if you move this, you can see that it stays behind. So it feels like the discs are staying a bit. And just like that, we have another dust particle effect. It's just to give a little more of detail to the particle. Just these little circles. The last one is just light so it illuminates the surrounding when it moves around. If we move it all together like this, we can see the effect. Now, the last one we'll show, it's how we can use effects to make a model look better in the game. This one of our enemies is the Fireboss, and it was made in Blender and animated there. But the model itself is just the top part. All of the bottom half was made in Unity using particle systems. So this effect, the fire tornado, is composed of 3 main parts. The top one is just one layer of cylinders that spawn and grow a little bit. So the transition doesn't look too hard. You can see it there. For the ground, we have the same effect. Let me see which one. It's the first one. We have the same effect, just a little bit on the ground. So it looks like there's fire coming off the bottom. And we have 2 planes with the same texture but different colors rotating around on the ground. So it looks like a tornado throwing wind around. And for this one, we have a glow to simulate the light of the lava on the ground. And for the main part, which is the core of the tornado, we made a mesh in Blender, which is the cylinder you can look by the orange outline. It's a cylinder with some curves, and we use the same shader and textures in all of them. We just use different dissolve amounts, so they look like they are more dissolved. The first one is like it just is lightly bright orange to look like lava. The middle is to add a little more brightness to some parts of it. And the last one, black, is to add some contrast, because contrast always makes the particles look better. And as a little detail, you have these sparks that rotate around it, so it looks like there's some lava spilling out of it. And for the last, we also have a point light, so the boss illuminates the player and the surrounding area when he moves around. So again, moving it all together, you can see it like this. So for now, we would like to show a bit of the game so we can see how it all works together and makes the player feel powerful with the magic. So I have already opened the game here. I'll just increase the volume a bit. Is the volume okay there?
I cannot listen to it, yeah. Not hear yet.
Okay, I don't know how to make it sound because the sound is activated.
Oh, hold on. It does have sound. It's just.
Okay, let me just increase them.
Okay.
So I'll be playing a bit while Gabriel Luiz can help by explaining what is happening.
I think that's a bit better, yeah.
Oh, if you can you reduce the sound, the VFX?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Just lowering a bit because it's a little high for me. Still okay?
It's overlapping the voices.
Okay. Lower.
Let's try this again.
Let me try doing
The
this.
sound effects, yeah. I like that. Should be fine. It's fine for me at least. So here we have our one of the initial rooms of this dungeon. We have here a chest from which we can choose 1 spell out of 3. And we can interact with the environment around. We can destroy the vases. We can burn the flags with fire spells. And now we're going to show you a little bit of all of these effects working on the game itself, because that's the important part. The effects are here to enhance the gameplay, to give more readability to what's going on. So let's try to show a bit of that. As you can see, this enemy here, he has that little effect, that circle that appears to give some anticipation, to show the player this enemy is about to hit you. So you have time to react. Even though we have animations going on, we have those effects to enhance the readability of the game. As you can see, some of our spells, oh, it's frozen from here now, add some status to the enemies. So the spell that my friend got here adds burn. And through the VFX, we can see that the enemy is actually catching on fire. So it's helping out also on the readability. When we finish a room, we have some loot. In this case, we got a spell, which is represented by that little book. And we'll choose one more spell. Let's move to the next room and keep showing things. Is that the one that bounces around?
No, this is just a straight one.
Oh, it looked like it, all right. So some enemies have loot too. Here, in this case, we're gathering what we call arcane power, and arcane power allows us to, outside of the runs, to increase the power of our character.
Yeah. The elements also affect gameplay because each enemy has a different element. For example, this one is a fire enemy, and if I use a fire spell, it only does half damage. So it may take a while to beat him. But since I have another element, I can use it to do more damage.
It is frozen for me now, so I cannot quite see what's happening.
Oh, okay. Well, I beat the other two
Technical
enemies,
issues.
and we got another loot drop. This is a passive you can get. It affects a run. For example, for this one, I got the choice between 3 different elements, then I can increase the damage. Since I already have a fire spell, I'll take the fire damage one. And this chest contains another spell, symbolized by this icon right here. So we can open it, and we get another 3 random spells. So this time, let's get another fire one.
Okay, I think I'm back.
We can, for example, create an area of fire on the ground. So now, Bezerra spell is very useful because you can just leave it there. The enemies will pass through them, and they may sometimes die without me even needing to fight them.
Yeah. That one small enemy, it has like little shields on the front, so you can only actually hit it when the little shield, those rocks are opened.
Yeah.
And when they open when the enemy is trying to attack. When that effect shows up, then it's the moment that you have to hit it to kill it.
So let's take to the unadvanced fire spell.
And since we are on technically a fire dungeon, the enemies that we call ignis, the enemies that we find are mostly the fire elements. So there's also a strategy to this game. So if you want to succeed or have more chances in doing so, you should at least try to get as many water spells as you can, because most of the enemies are going to be fire. So you'll have a tougher time killing them.
Since this is a roguelite game, it means that when you die, you lose the progress you had on that game. So, for example, if you die right here, next time we must begin from the starting of the dungeon again. But there is an element of a permanent upgrade we can get. When you kill enemies, we got our currency called arcane runes, and after we die, we can spend these arcane runes in this skill tree to get better spells, better passives, for example. I already had unlocked all the spells that I could from each element, but now, for example, we can see if I want to unlock more damage, more critical chance, more movement speed, less damage taken, and other upgrades like that. You can just take like that, and then we can progress on the skill tree. We also have a boss raid mode, where we can fight that boss that we showed before. So let me just grab some spells here. The light disc that you showed, we can see how it looks in game.
Sorry, Bezerra, you can show the spell book as well.
Oh, yeah. The spellbook that he was talking about is a menu we have right here, where we can see all the spells that we have acquired. We can click on them, see the spell card. It's a single target spell. We can see the mana cost here, the element, and the damage it does. Also, the level of the spell, symbolized by this gem. This gem is from a level 1 spell. This one's from a level 2. When you click, we also highlight what upgrades we have for it. For example, we have here Lutz damage, Lutz being the light element. It does 100% damage. If we get passives for more Lutz damage, it will reflect here. We can see on this passive chest, if we can get some of them to show how it works. Yeah, Lutz damage right here. So opening it again, and this time we have Lutz damage 105%, and we also have the passive right here. So you can see everything we have obtained on the current run. So now I think I can fight the boss just with these two.
Okay, you're feeling lucky, go ahead.
Enter the room and fight the boss, and his health bar appears down there. He is way more aggressive than the other enemies. He has different attacks. Also divided by phases. In the current phase, he is kind of slow and doesn't attack too often. But if you bring him to lower health, he starts attacking with different spells. For example, in this attack, he sets the whole room on fire, and you have to find protection inside these magic circles. If you are not inside there, you take damage over time, or you are protected. As you can see, I took damage when I got off. His attacks also get harder to dodge. He now shoots 3 bullets instead of 1. Now you actually have to start dodging and trying to win.
And hopefully you can see everything
Yeah, I
right,
don't know how
even though to the
frame
low
rate is going.
frame rate. At least here is really hard to see.
So,
And this spell that my friend is
Avoid
using,
test.
it has a different behavior that it bounces around the walls. And we have these little things going on for different spells too. You really made it. It's almost done.
Yep, just needs protect. So I can't really do much damage when he's in this state. He's back. I can.
And
Shoot.
there we go.
Oh, and I got in the portal. So we can see the loot. But yeah, the player can keep going as long as he's still alive. As you see, his health doesn't restore between each boss, but you can get new spells and new passives, and you can just do it again. For the final version, we would like to have one dungeon for each different element, but on the current state, we just have the fire dungeon and the fire boss. Each element would also have a different boss with different behaviors. So we can end the run here. As you can see, we can upgrade again the skill tree, but we already did that. So I think this finished the demonstration.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, where's the presentation?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the.
Yeah, the last one.
Sorry, I'm back.
Either way, thanks very much, everyone. And if you have any questions, we will gladly answer them. And if you can, follow us on EDDB too. You will get pretty much weekly posts on the progress of the game. And if you can follow us on LinkedIn as well, you'll keep posted there.
Yeah. On IndieDB, we also do devlogs weekly about how we are making the game. For example, we already had a breakdown of a black hole effect and the procedural generation there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We saw kind of advertisement now in this moment, a very great presentation. I like it very much. And I would like to repeat the same question as I put to previous group that I asked first that how you started to interested about a game. The second, how do you feel now during your studies, if you will study on master degree? And the third, what is your future? What is your goal in the life? So please, in some order, Pedro will start.
Yeah, I think I can start. Yeah.
Okay. Please don't share a last slide.
Oh, okay.
to see each other, and please our students to switch on your camera as many as possible.
Unfortunately, I cannot do that because I don't have a webcam. I was using my phone and he died. It ran out of battery and it doesn't charge at the same speed that I needed to have it charging and using it at the same time. So unfortunately, I can't use my camera now.
Okay, so we can hear you.
Okay, so the first question was how I started liking the games, right? So, as my previous colleagues, it was when I was a child, I was already playing games on the PC and on the Game Boy Color. I remember vividly playing Pokemon Yellow with my cousin. this is one of the first games I played, and I have memories of. And then I fell in love with Pokemon, and then Mario, Nintendo, and then I started branching out from there. Even though I like games so much, I didn't initially go to college to do games. I first went to with computer engineering, and after like 3 years, I absolutely hated it. So suddenly, one semester, I decided, oh, let me download Blender and try 3D modeling just for a hobby. And I instantly fell in love with it and changed courses right there because of it. Like in 2 months, I decided, no, I'm wrong. I'm in the wrong path. I will start. I will see what I can do for game development. Then I started studying at Lusófona. My focus at the time was a 3D modeler or game artist in general. But currently, I am more focused on the part of the VFX because it's an area I discovered like last year, and I have a bunch of fun doing it, like all the time, all the kind of different effects. And it's also an area that's not very popular, so uh, it's I think it's a nice feature in it because it's a lot of people do character modeling, a lot of people do animation, but not many of them do VFX. So it's something I can focus and get really good at it. For the future, I mean, I don't know where I can work. I have some dream jobs at Riot, for example, in United States, or if they have any offices here in Europe, I don't know. But I don't think Portugal is a really good option because there are not many good companies here. Miniclip being one of the biggest of them, and but even then, it's not that big. So probably I'll just go to another country in the future when I get opportunities for it.
Yes, but in this moment you don't have any contacts that are very serious.
No. In the moment, no. Yeah, we were just finishing the courses, so after that, I'm gonna start to really go into how to say foreign companies and start to do. Hey, here's my portfolio. What do you think?
Okay, so maybe miracles will happen for our students also. There used to come sometimes miracles. For example, we can see now Vertinko, who is our graduate, and he's one of our miracle because he has his own company and now he is teacher for teaching without money, just for pleasure.
Yeah.
You know the conditions for our school. And probably the same miracle could be for everybody. Please, the same question for Pedro Marques. We can't hear you. Please, once more, microphone.
Yeah, sorry. It's okay now. Right. Yeah. So I've always played video games since I was a child. Obviously, I love them. And I've always wanted to create games. And some years ago, I found out about this course, and I decided it was time to finally follow the path I've always wanted. I wasn't really sure of which area I would like in the development, and I found out I love programming. So now I know I love programming. I love video games as well, and I know I can create video games with it, and that's all I wanted. About the future, I might stay in Portugal in the beginning to gain some experience, and then only time will tell. I'm not sure.
So the future is open for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next, Gonçalo, try to tell about you.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so my backstory is kind of the same as everyone in this bachelor's. I think I always played games since I was little. Like Bezerra, I remember vividly of playing Pokemon on my Game Boy, and just from there, I just kept going from one console to another. The way I found about this course was also like Bezerra, before I was in graphic design in Caldas da Rainha, but after the first semester, I found out that I didn't actually like it that much, and then I found the course at Lisbon. So by the end of the full year, I changed, and yeah, and I just love it. And I was always in between, let's say, branches of game development. I didn't, because I liked programming, but I also like the art. But in the past 2 years, I figured out that programming, maybe it's not for me, although I enjoy doing it, but it's not for me. So I kind of started leaning towards the art, and with these our last two projects, I kind of dived into UI and UX. Even though I kept doing 3D on the side, it's more of what I've been doing. So yeah. And for the future, I also don't think I'm gonna stay in Portugal. It's the same idea, is just try to get a little bit of experience with whatever companies we can find here, and then either get a full-on remote job somewhere else, or just change country completely. I think my dream job would also be at either Riot Games or one of the major studios from the most known games.
It's interesting, very interesting for me with comparison with our students. If I would make the same statistic, if they will want to stay in Slovakia, so probably it will be absolutely in opposite way, that maybe 90% or 95% of students want to stay here in Slovakia and not to try to find work outside without, by computer, yes, to work for America, for anybody, but generally they want to stay in Slovakia. Thank you very much. And Luis, your opinion?
So, hello again. So, it's pretty much the same as everyone, liking games since a little child. But there was this one day, there was this period in history that people start playing Minecraft and streaming it on YouTube. And there was some people doing 3D intros to those videos. And they were all really similar, but they were all made in Cinema 4D. So one day I started, let me download Cinema 4D here and see what this is all about. And I started dabbling with 3D. And then I started taking a look at the making of some video games, and I really got interested in it, in the making of. And then I realized that, well, maybe there is a possibility working in video games. But I was kind of afraid, I must confess, because there is not a lot of history in regards of a lot of people getting jobs here in Portugal on video games. So when I told my parents that I wanted to do video games, my mom looked at me like, do you really need a degree for that? And that was her answer, but she was very supportive after all. But it was kind of a surprise because it wasn't a thing. But when I got to know that Lusofna had that course, and it was very, very general, so we could go into programming, go into art, go into game design, and we could go in all those parts of the development as we talked before earlier. And I was not really quite sure that I wanted to do art, so it was a great thing that I got to know all those things. So currently I'm doing art because that's the thing I like the most in the process, but it's also good to know that I have programming on my skill set if needed, so that's it. And for the future, I do not intend in pursuing a master's degree, at least for now, in maybe a possibility in the future. And in regards of working, I am open to relocation if necessary, but I would also like to, at the beginning at least, to remain in Portugal but working remotely, because all that my colleague said that Portugal doesn't offer a lot of opportunities is true, but it is also true because probably we haven't a lot of seniors here in Portugal, so the companies are not quite interested in coming here because we don't have seniors here. So if we have people in Portugal that actually have experience in the area, maybe that can draw some attention from the big companies and make the industry, the game industry here in Portugal, grow even further. So I know it's hard. It's not easy. It's been quite a while that the industry has been like that, but someone has to start it, and it might be us. It might not, but we have to give it a try. But in case it doesn't work out, I'm definitely open to relocation and working remotely.
It's fantastic. I felt a little more optimism in your future imagination. So I like it because it is really the goal of your generation to make senior professionals, to be leaders in your industry and to build companies and really to start this business, because by my meaning, game design doesn't have borders, but your company probably in future successful necessary must be outside of Portugal. So it's my meaning, my opinion. So thank you very much for your answers. We have a kind of imagination about your goals in future. I would want to ask Lubomir Pinko, our teacher, that we can see him now by camera. And probably he saw this presentation, and probably he can tell something about comparison, because he now produced some kind of game and he saw your game, and if I'm thinking about rules that we got from accreditation commission, that we can educate our students in game design. So in these rules we got that we cannot have killings, we cannot have damaging, we cannot have so it is much more difficult for our students to find out idea of very interesting or accessible game in which we will not have aggressivity or kind, what we could see in your project. So
yeah, in our previous years, we also had some projects that had some limitation like that. For example, we had a year that we had to create a first-person puzzle game, and another that we had to create a third-person action adventure. And this time for the final project is open theme. You can do whatever you want. That's why there's more difference between Shisto, the previous group, and us, for example.
Okay, thank you for explanation. So Lubomir, the question. Microphone.
Hello, everyone. Unfortunately, I didn't see all of your games because I had another call. I had to go on another call. So the question was really what my opinion about the. I actually hear all of these answers from you about your future, and I was kind of sad about your answers that you want to leave Portugal and go anywhere. You actually have a team right now, and you want to like abandon the team and all your experience and go, I don't know where, Poland and so on. I didn't have anything against Poland, but why not stick into Portugal? Actually, I think the first Commandos game was made by Portugal game development company. If you know Commandos game series, it was 20 years ago. Because you are young, you have still a hope and lots of strength to build your own company. I don't see a problem there. You are in the European Union, everything is possible right now and easy. Even I can make a Steam page anytime in a few hours. Put it there and find some financials. I did find from Poland publisher that helped me with the financing, and we are starting there with our own game. So that was kind of sad that you want to leave, because I had the same question. Everybody was asking me about why I'm still here. Why did I leave to, I don't know, Canada? Everybody go to Vancouver, go to Montreal, because there's like big VFX houses. But for me it would be like a failure if I will move from here. You know, you are young, you didn't have to fill the position, you can create new positions there. When you will be old and will have kids and a lot of lots of issue, then maybe you can you should think about this like this. So that was kind of sad. And about the game and self, I know there's not should be a killing. I don't know if there was a question about our games about the killing in our games, but I'm too trying to, you know, even if there's something like killing or I don't know, some expressive visuals, you can still put some story behind it, you know. You don't have to kill with the bullets, you know, like our student is making that you are trying to save the Christmas with firing gifts, you know, presents. So it doesn't have to be like bullet and you don't have to kill someone, you know. It's the logic is the same, but you can move it forward. So maybe yes, there's a problem because everybody wants to kill someone in the game, but it shouldn't be the problem. And even I have a colonized game that you are actually trying to colonize America, but we are still trying to educate every player with backstory, with the real men that actually were there and trying to survive. I don't know if I answered the questions.
Yes, thank you very much for your opinion. Barbara, I can see you. Can you put any question to our group of students?
Yeah, first of all, I really liked all the effects. I also checked your art station, and it was like I like it very much because I have tried making some of these myself, so I kind of can relate to what's happening. So I was just wondering, like, which part of the creation of the asset do you find the most time consuming? Like, is it the animation, the motion design, the logic behind the shader, or what do you find the most time consuming?
Well, this actually we separate a lot this process between our team. For example, in the anime models that have animations, most of them I did the model and the texture, and then I passed to Gabriel to do the and I also did the reading and passed to him to do the animation because it's a more time consuming and he has more expertise in it. But I'd say, at least from my part, from the modeling, testing, and reading, the most time consuming is probably the after sculpting if I need to retopologize.
Definitely.
If I don't need, then probably the initial shape or the sculpting details. Because also for the textures, we use Substance Painter. We from the beginning created a material for the environment pieces that now when we get a model done, we can just drag the material there and it's 90% done already.
Yeah, at first it was
was
kind of
thinking
time consuming, but it
about-
got easier.
I was thinking more about the VFX part.
Oh,
not
okay,
like-
yeah, okay. Yeah, that's also different. Okay, so initially, the most time consuming was definitely the shader because it was at the time giant, the biggest shader I have added on. And the initial effects as well, because every new effect I did, I thought, oh, now I need a new texture for this. So I had to open Photoshop, draw the texture, and then go back to Unity and test it out. After a time, it gets easier because now I have a library of many different textures. So when I'm creating a new effect, I can just create a particle system, drag some texture that I already have there, and it gets way easier with more textures already done and materials. So now currently, I think the most time consuming is like in the beginning when I set up the base shape, the base motion of the animation, and then I just the other guys joke around that. I'm like, click restart on Unity, see how it changes, restart, restart. Okay, let me change this value from 0.5 to 0.4. Restart, 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 restart. Okay, let me change to 0.45. Restart, restart, and then looking until it looks all right.
Okay, Barbara, is it a correct answer for you, or you want to add something?
No, I'm happy with the answer. I can relate it to what has been said. So
Okay, thank you. So now I can see Marian Ferko. So probably it is time for his question for the all member of group.
Okay, hi guys. So your presentation was really excellent. And I have just one question. If you had the opportunity to do everything again from scratch, what would you do differently?
I believe, I mean, this is an answer that will probably change from person to person, but at least when it comes to the art, which is the department I'm working on, I believe we would concept things better at first, because lots of big part of the work we did was iteration over iteration over iteration and changing stuff that was already done, because I believe we kind of failed in concepting things at first. So if we had planning things better, I believe we would have gone to a more, let's say, straightforward path and achieve the same result or maybe a better result, and we would have time to try different things. So concepting better will be one of the things that I believe we would do different.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Probably we spent a very nice and useful time, and I would want to ask Felipe, because he had some program today. So what do you think about evaluation and all these things that are new for your school? What is perspective of your future education?
Hello again, once again, thank you. In fact, today's session and tomorrow is terrible for us because we are being evaluated. All courses in Portugal are evaluated years by years, each 6 years. And now is the time to be evaluated. The meetings occur today and tomorrow. So unfortunately, I lost here some presentations, but just, no, I can sum up later. But according to your question, because it has been a long day, what we are doing here, we are just fine tuning, and there's always new opportunities. These industries change too fast. Now there's a great interest in extended realities in film with Unreal and that approach that are less interesting for our students. But what we feel here is that our students, we have a broad course, so we could have students for game design, game arts, and game programming. But what happens after the second year and third year, they split in teams and they specialize in each area. So the big changes we made and the meetings today have run very, very well. Was in that area, in that focus. So what we're going to do is in the second year create branches, kind of branches, so the students could select, instead of having programming and arts, they could select both or just one. So to give more opportunities for the student, because sometimes happens that a very expert student in programming decides to do arts, to learn more in a different area. Other times, he just want to work in programming, so we don't want to learn Substance Painter, Maya, Blender, whatever, 3D stuff. So this is going to be the biggest changes. Other is investing in culture and game design, because it's very hard to compete with AAA games, with most of commercial indie games. So having opportunities to put our students thinking in particularities that you could have in Bratislava, that we could have in Lisbon, like our students from Xisto Game, sorry. doing some work in cultural heritage, which is one of the big areas where European community is investing in cultural heritage. Recently, there was a call to create games for cultural heritage, for instance. And so this is one approach. The other is, of course, offer all the freedom to the students, because as Pedro mentioned, in the first and second year, we need to narrow down a little bit the games. So they have to develop a top-bottom game or a platformer or whatever. In the second year, they have a first-person or third-person game, and only in the third year they can do whatever they wish. And I think this is also a good learning process. If we narrow too much on the third year, they will not have the opportunity to create a lot of mistakes, which is very important for their learning process. So basically, at this moment in our evaluation process, the big issues I have here is, to be honest, to have students like those ones that were here today, highly motivated to work, because we had a lot of students that love to play, but not too much to create games. Like I love visual effects, I love doing visual effects, but probably I don't see so much visual effects movies, for instance. And like I used to say, I love to eat, but don't ask me to cook, please, because I hate cooking.
Okay, thank you for your explanation of conditions of evaluations. I think that we fulfilled our program for today meeting, and generally I want to tell that I'm very, very satisfied from all presentations. If I compare both styles of pedagogical process, compare our students with the students of Portugal. So I can see difference mainly in area of interest of our students, that if we look on these 6 presentations, so every of them are on absolutely different principle or different point of view, what they interest in. And what is interesting for our education process, that there is absolutely freedom in this, that who will accept which team, because it is their problem to get job, to get some professional future, and we don't tell them you must do something, you must do in some way. We can just maybe to help them in some way, or try to understand their thinking, but generally they are free and they are building their own future, own selves. And if I'm looking on your process, so your process is more following the idea of the game design. So you are much more intensive in product of let's tell maybe in future commercial successful. You are still working in Unity mainly, and I know very simple that Unreal Engine is the great power, and I would recommend you more interested about, or try to find a new project in Unreal, and I think that in the future it can help you much more in your coming to Poland or wherever in the world is. So it is my recommendation, and for me it is absolutely, for example, our students got equipment X-Sense. I don't know if you know this. It is motion capture equipment, and one group came yesterday to me, and they said, yes, we want to try it, and I said, fantastic. And what happened, they spent the whole day, the whole night, today they will continue, and probably next time, and it is motivation. Yes, so it is this important, that you must want and to find all ways how to be better and better. And I think that I saw it in both groups, in our students and also you as game design. What was said by our teacher Timko, our graduate, that probably it's a good idea to go outside to learn something, but generally in Portugal area, to build a new company and to put together all your knowledges and to put it together and to make your own company and to build that you will be senior programmer, senior artist and so on. So for me, for our education, it's not successful if somebody will get after finishing our school job. Yes, for me, it is success that they will build their own company. And if I'm looking on statistic, who was successful, like at least 50% of my students, of our students are successful that they build their own company. And it's great, it's fantastic result. So it is my recommendation and for you. Okay, so I finish our meeting with this, that I liked everything, what we saw and what we heard, and tomorrow we will meet in the morning in the same process, 8:30 and 9 there will start presentations of professionals. And I'm very curious about, because we will have 6 different points of view from 6 nations, you know. So it will be very nice to compare young generation. Most of them, they are PhD students, and it is future for science in Europe. And so it will be very interesting to compare how they look on future of our game design or film industry in this area.
Can I say so? Just one thing, very, very fast, because I didn't have opportunity with this entering and getting out of this meeting. Just a big, big thanks to you personally and to VSMU for this second opportunity. Probably next year we can invite our film students and film teachers, because in director of photography, visual effects, directing, etc., could be also interesting for us, for you, sorry. And just to have great thanks for all the presentations today. I will see a few ones. Some of them were really, really interesting. I love to see Borat in Unreal, or the made paintings like the talk I did last year. So thank you a lot for all of your students, for my students also. It was a great pleasure to see, and I hope to see in the near future the version that you're gonna upload in online, the videos, to see the missing presentations. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. So if somebody can switch camera, try to switch camera now. If no, so we'll finish our meeting. So switch camera, please. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody, to take part on our meeting, and we'll meet together tomorrow in the morning.